Story 1. The Listing. It was the third time he'd emailed me in 6 hours and I hadn't responded once. I was moving out of my apartment at the end of the month and didn't want to haul a solid wood dresser across town. $40, 2 photos, my general neighborhood listed, standard Craigslist. I'd sold things this way before without a single problem. The first email came an hour after I posted. Is this still available? Normal. I replied yes, gave my number, told him to text me to arrange pickup. He didn't text. At 2 p.m., a second email from the same address. What's the exact address? No acknowledgement of my previous message. Just the question, as if I hadn't responded at all. I wrote back that I'd share the address once we confirmed a time. Asked when he wanted to pick up. No response. At 4:47 p.m., a third email, word for word identical to the second one. Same punctuation, same absence of any greeting. What's the exact address? I closed the laptop and didn't answer. I told myself it was nothing. Someone pushy, someone bad at email, someone who communicated strangely. Craigslist had all types. I relisted the dresser with phone contact only, blocked his address, made dinner and went to bed. I woke at 2 a.m. into a room that felt wrong before I understood why. Not wrong in any visible way. The room was dark, the street outside its usual amber wash through the curtains, nothing displaced. But something had pulled me out of sleep at a specific moment, and the silence had a texture to it. Thick, the kind that fills in around a sound that just stopped. I lay still. 30 seconds, maybe less. Then I understood what I was hearing. Someone was trying the front door, not knocking. Testing the handle. Slow, deliberate turns. The kind that check whether it's locked without making noise. Once. A pause. Then again. It barely registered as sound at all. More like a feeling transmitted through the apartment, through the walls, through the floor. I didn't move. I lay in the dark and thought about what I'd given in that listing. Not my address, my neighborhood. A radius of maybe 12 square blocks. The handle stopped. Footsteps on the front porch, then silence. I called the police with my light off, voice as low as I could manage. They arrived in 9 minutes and walked the perimeter. Nothing. No one on the stairs. No one on the street. In the morning, in the narrow soil bed beside the front steps, I found boot prints. 2 positions, slightly overlapping. The way feet shift when someone stands still for a while, both facing the door. The soil was dense, and the impressions were clean. Deep enough that I could see the tread pattern clearly on the forward foot, the one angled toward the stairs, toward where I slept. I reported it, got a case number. There wasn't much else to be done. The thing I've never been able to close is this. He didn't have my address. I hadn't given it to him. My listing had my neighborhood, nothing more. He found my building anyway. I've looked at those dresser photos more times than I can count, trying to understand what he used. I still don't know. Story 2. The roommate. She seemed completely normal in the meeting, and I've spent a long time sitting with that. My previous roommate had moved out in September, which left me covering rent that was comfortable split and difficult solo. I posted a listing, quiet apartment, working professional preferred, utilities included, and she responded within an hour of it going live. Her message was well written. Mid-20s, worked remotely, no pets, no smoking, described herself as quiet and private. We met at a coffee shop 3 days later. She was on time, asked reasonable questions about storage and natural light, answered mine without volunteering much beyond what was relevant. I read it as privacy. Some people are just private. She moved in on the 1st of October with 2 suitcases, thanked me for the key, and closed her door. The first week was normal. She kept to herself, kept her space clean, moved through the apartment quietly. She'd mentioned working odd hours, and I heard her occasionally in the kitchen late at night, but nothing unusual. The kind of roommate you barely notice. It was 10 days in when I saw the search history. I wasn't snooping. We shared a household laptop for streaming that sat on the kitchen counter. I was looking up a recipe when the autocomplete populated something that stopped me cold. My full name, with the word address after it. I scrolled back carefully. My name searched several times across different days. My workplace, which I hadn't mentioned to her and hadn't updated publicly since starting the job 8 months earlier. My sister's name, my sister's city. It wasn't a background check. A background check is a single pass. This was repeated, layered. The kind of searching you do when you're building something. I closed the browser and sat on my bed. She had been in the apartment for 10 days. In those 10 days, while presenting as a quiet, unobtrusive roommate who respected shared space, she had been working steadily through me, and she was in the next room. I didn't confront her. I've thought about whether that was the right call, and I still believe it was. She was inside my apartment. She had a key. I didn't know what the research was for or what she'd do if I named it directly. I texted a friend, packed a bag while she was in the shower, and left. 3 days later, I had new locks installed and the building manager present when I told her it wasn't working out. She didn't argue, didn't ask what had changed. She looked at me for a moment and said, "Okay." Something in the tone I still don't have the right word for. Not surprised, not hurt, just acknowledgement, like she'd already accounted for this outcome. She was out by the end of the week. I went through the room carefully after she left. Clean, nothing damaged, nothing left behind except one thing. In the back of the bathroom cabinet, behind a stack of spare towels, a folded piece of paper I hadn't put there, a printed page, a local newspaper article from 3 years earlier about a series of break-ins in the neighborhood. My address was circled in blue pen, not the intersection I'd given her when she agreed to take the room. My full address, unit number included, from an article dated 3 years before she ever responded to my listing. She'd had my address before she introduced herself to me. She'd walked into that coffee shop already knowing where I lived. She'd moved in with the address already in her possession, and she'd kept the paper and brought it with her. I don't know what she was looking for. I don't know if she found it before I changed the locks. I moved to a different neighborhood 6 months later. I still think about that piece of paper, about how long she'd had it before my listing went up. Story 3. The buyer. He texted exactly on time, which was the first thing I noticed. Not 5 minutes early, not 5 minutes late. The exact minute he'd said. I registered it without knowing why it bothered me. I was selling a camera lens, a quality Fast 50 I was letting go after upgrading my system. I'd priced it honestly, posted clear photos, and he'd responded the same day. His message was efficient. He named the lens correctly, asked one precise technical question about a cosmetic issue in the photos, confirmed the price without negotiating, and arranged a meeting. No back and forth. He knew what he was looking at. I suggested a grocery store parking lot. Standard protocol, public, daytime, easy to leave. He confirmed the time and arrived at the exact minute. He was maybe 40, dark jacket, average height. I noticed that he'd parked farther from the entrance than necessary, near the edge of the lot, and that he was already standing outside his car when I pulled in, not waiting inside it. Not unusual on its own. Just one of those small arrangements that you take in and file away. He handled the lens the right way, checked the glass at the correct angle, worked the aperture ring, asked about the rear element coating. A real photographer, or close enough. He didn't make conversation while he examined it, which I'd normally appreciate. But the silence had a quality I couldn't pin down. Not comfortable. Considered. Like he was using it for something. I had the thought, and then dismissed it, that he hadn't looked at my face once since we'd shaken hands. The transaction was going smoothly. Then he said, "I saw your other listing too." I told him I didn't have another listing. Something moved in his expression. Not embarrassment, not confusion. A brief recalibration. "The camera body," he said, "posted last week." I told him again I hadn't posted a camera body. The lens was the only thing I'd listed. He took out his phone and showed me. A Craigslist listing. My city. My neighborhood. A camera body. The specific one I owned and had not listed. Priced at what I would have priced it. The photos were mine. I knew immediately because of the background. A piece of neutral gray fabric I used when photographing equipment draped over my kitchen table. The same surface, the same window light, the same framing I always used. Someone had photographed my equipment in my kitchen using my setup. I stood in that parking lot and thought through what I was looking at. I bought time by appearing to examine his phone carefully. I was actually thinking about my lens photos, about the background, about what else was visible in the frame. In the third shot, slightly out of focus on the counter behind the lens, my camera body was visible. Identifiable if you knew what you were looking at. So someone had seen my listing, identified the body in the background, sourced photos of it somehow, and built a fraudulent listing around equipment they'd confirmed I owned. I completed the sale. I didn't know what else to do in that moment. I took his money, gave him the lens, and watched him walk back to his car. Then I reported the fake listing from my phone. It was taken down within the hour, not by Craigslist. Their response time isn't that fast. Whoever posted it removed it themselves, which meant they were monitoring it closely enough to see the report the moment it came in. Here's the thing I've turned over the most. When he mentioned the other listing and I said I hadn't posted it, he didn't look confused. He looked like someone who had received information they were trying to decide what to do with. He'd come to buy the lens, but he'd mentioned the body. And when I told him I didn't know what he was talking about, something shifted in how he was looking at me. I've thought about what he was actually there to find out. The lens transaction was real. I believe that. But that moment, when he said he'd seen the other listing, felt less like a casual comment and more like a question. He wasn't confused when I said I hadn't posted it. He was checking whether I knew.